The house hadn't been lived in for decades. The previous owners had apparently sacrificed themselves to keep whatever this place was at bay. But now you're here, and you have no intention of leaving. You've got your wife, you've got your picket fence, you've got your charming Victorian home with all the modern conveniences. What could possibly go wrong? For starters, every single night you dream the exact same dream. The house is decaying, dripping blood and screaming for mercy. And then right as you wake up, the sun rises. You look over at your wife fast asleep, peaceful, innocent, unaware that she too is reliving the same nightmare you are. It started subtly. You were unpacking boxes one night when you felt something brush against your leg. You looked down and saw a floorboard. It was moving on its own accord, creaking closer and closer until it stopped right next to you. Then from the corner of your eye, you saw another floorboard move. Then another and another until the entire room began to writhe like some kind of gigantic centipede. You screamed, but your voice echoed in the cavernous halls and the floorboards kept moving. You ran to your bedroom, barricaded yourself in, turned on all the lights and waited for morning. When you went to tell your wife what happened, she looked at you with an unhinged smile and said, "I had the exact same dream last night." Confused, you shared your dream with her, the one about the house bleeding and screaming. She listened patiently, then said, "That was no dream. That is our house. That is our—" Before you could respond, she bolted upright in bed, eyes wide with terror as the floorboards began to screech and moan. You grabbed her hand, calmed her down, and together you faced whatever was happening. This continued every single night. The house would come alive, shake and shudder and scream, and you and your wife would cling to each other for dear life until sunrise. Eventually, you found old journals in the attic belonging to the previous owners, and in them you discovered the horrifying truth. This house was alive, an ancient sentient being who took on a new form every 100 years or so, and the only way to stop it was to sacrifice those closest to it, lulling it back to sleep with their life essence. The previous owners had done this, sealing the house back into its coffin-like slumber. But now you were here, and they hadn't accounted for you. And the more you thought about it, the more you realized you had signs right from the beginning. When you moved in, you noticed how dark the paint was, how the previous owners had boarded up most of the windows. Even the garden outside seemed to be thriving despite never being tended to. The owners before you hadn't simply sealed the house up out of spite or to save money. They had done it to contain the very essence of death itself. With each passing day you grew weaker, more tired, more withered, and you knew what was happening. Your life force was slowly being drained away to sustain the house, and your wife was going with you. But you also realized something else. If the house was taking your life energy, then that meant you could give it what it wanted. By willingly sacrificing yourselves, you could buy the world a reprieve from whatever this house was. At the very least, you could stop it from consuming your friends and family. At first, you tried reasoning with it, begging it to stop, demanding it let you live. But the house didn't care. All it wanted was sustenance. And then you had an idea. Maybe you couldn't stop it, but maybe you could trick it. So you began playing it really safe, boarding up windows, putting curtains over every single light bulb in the house, turning off your phone, sealing yourself in your room every night until sunrise. And eventually it worked. The house stopped shaking, the floorboards stopped creaking, and for the first time in weeks you slept without being disturbed. But then just as you were about to drift off to dreamland, you heard a familiar sound, the floorboards shifting. You opened your eyes to see the moonlight shining through a crack in the boarded-up window, and there in the pale glow, you saw the face of your house, a grotesque, gaunt visage with hollow eyes that burned with an unholy fire. It was beautiful and terrifying. And then you realized what had happened. Your precautions had worked too well. The house was lulled into a death-like slumber, but it had taken one look at you and decided it didn't want to sleep just yet. It wanted to play. Oh, it wanted to play with its food. And as the floorboard inched closer and closer, you knew there was only one thing to do. You reached over, took your wife's hand, and together you embraced the darkness.